A 4-year-old sits alone at a table. In front of her, on a plate, is one marshmallow. A man in a lab coat tells her the rules. He is going to leave the room. She can eat the marshmallow whenever she likes. But if she can wait until he comes back, she gets 2. Then he walks out and shuts the door. What happens next in that room was filmed, studied, and turned into one of the most famous claims in all of psychology. That the children who waited went on to better lives, better grades, better jobs, better health. And the ones who ate it didn't. For 50 years we've been told this is a test of willpower. It isn't. And what it's actually measuring should change how you think about your own self-control. You think you'd wait. Most of them thought so too. The man behind it was Walter Mischel, a psychologist at Stanford. The year was 1972, and he was interested in something simple. How does a child learn to say no to themselves? The setup was almost cruelly elegant. A small room, a table, a chair. Nothing else, no toys, no books, no windows to look out of. Just a child, a treat, and a bell they could ring at any moment to bring the man back and end it. Ring the bell, get one now. Wait about 15 minutes, get 2. Over 600 children went into that room. Most of them were the sons and daughters of Stanford staff and students at the campus nursery. Remember that. It matters later. And the footage is extraordinary. Some ate it the second the door closed. Some lasted seconds. But the ones who made it, they didn't just sit there gritting their teeth. They did something much smarter. They looked away. They covered their eyes. They turned their chair around. They sang songs to themselves. They kicked the table. One little boy stroked the marshmallow like it was a tiny pet. Another pretended it wasn't food at all. One girl put her head down on the table and made herself fall asleep. These were 4-year-olds inventing strategies that adults pay therapists to learn. Not one of the successful children sat staring at it, being strong. They all changed the situation so they didn't have to be. Mischel found this in the data too. When he told children to think about how sweet and chewy the marshmallow was, they lasted about 3 minutes. When he told them to imagine it was just a puffy white cloud, they lasted over 13. Same child, same treat. A different picture in their head. There's one more detail in that footage that nobody quotes. The children who lasted longest were often the ones who looked like they were having the worst time squirming, humming, hiding under the table. The calm ones ate it. Struggling visibly wasn't a sign of weak self-control. It was the self-control. Then, years later, came the finding that made it famous. Mischel tracked the children down as teenagers. The ones who had waited longer had higher test scores, coped better with stress, were rated as more competent by their parents. Later studies pointed to better health and even lower body weight decades on. The story wrote itself. Willpower in a 4-year-old predicts your whole life. It's such a clean story, one trait, measured at 4, deciding everything. It gives the successful a reason to feel deserving, and everyone else a reason to feel weak. It became books, TED Talks, parenting advice, school programs. Wait for the marshmallow and you'll win. There was only one problem. In 2018, a team of researchers ran the study again. Not with 60 children from the Stanford campus nursery, with more than 900 children chosen to look like the actual country. The effect was still there, but it was less than half the size. And then they did the thing that broke the legend. They controlled for the family's income and the mother's education. And when they did, most of the effect simply vanished, which means the marshmallow test was never really measuring willpower. It was measuring something much less flattering. It was measuring the world the child came from. Not how strong the child was, how trustworthy their life had been so far. Think about it from inside the room. If you grow up somewhere where adults keep their promises, where food shows up when it's supposed to, where tomorrow looks like today, waiting is obviously worth it. The second marshmallow is basically real. But if you grow up where promises get broken, where sometimes there is food and sometimes there isn't, where a stranger saying, "I'll be back" has been wrong before, then eating it immediately isn't weakness. It's the smartest move in the room. There's an experiment that proves exactly this. Before the marshmallow, researchers gave children an art activity and promised better supplies. For half the children, the promise was kept. For the other half, the adult came back apologetic and empty-handed. Then they ran the marshmallow test. Same room, same marshmallow, same instructions. The only difference was one broken promise, 10 minutes earlier. The children who had been let down waited about 3 minutes. The children whose adult had kept their word waited 12. 4 times longer. After one single experience. Nobody's willpower changed in those few minutes. Their evidence did. The child who ate it fast wasn't failing a test of character. They were passing a test of reality. They had already learned what the promise of a second marshmallow is worth. You have felt the edge of this. The diet that collapses in a bad week, not a good one. The savings you can keep when things are stable and can't when they're not. The way patience feels easy when you trust what's coming, and impossible when you don't. You've called that discipline. Most of it was circumstances. Walter Mischel didn't prove that some children are strong and some are weak. He actually said this himself, and almost nobody listened. He proved that self-control is not a thing you have. It's a thing you do, a set of tricks, learned, and it only works when the world has given you a reason to believe waiting pays. So the next time you fail to resist something, don't reach for more willpower. It's the weakest tool in the room. Do what the 4-year-olds who made it did. Change the room, turn the chair around, make it a cloud. Put it where you can't see it. And if you're raising someone, there's a second lesson here, and it's heavier. Every promise you keep is teaching them that waiting works. Every one you break is teaching them to take the marshmallow, because the children who won weren't stronger than the ones who didn't. They were just better at not having to be. Would you have waited and be honest? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to understand the experiments that reveal who we really are, this is the human experiment. I'll see you in the next case.